Hello everybody and a warm welcome to the ThePackHub's latest packaging webinar. My name is Paul Jenkins, I'm Managing Director of the ThePackHub. Joined today as always by my colleague Barry Pamplin, Technical Director, who will be fielding our questions later in the session. And also delighted to be joined by two people from T=0, James Cutting. James has lots of experience running large teams across several large companies, and he's now CEO of T=0, who provide brand owners and retailers with web-based tools to make the packaging of artworks in minutes rather than days and weeks a reality. So he'll be telling us a little bit more about his technologies alongside his colleague John Stevens. So what we'll cover over the next 55 minutes or so, as always, just a very quick summary of the ThePackHub and our Innovation Zone packaging database for those that are new to us. We'll then split several packaging design innovations over two sections. So we'll have a part one. We'll then hear from James and John about their formula for total brand control. We'll then split into the second selection of packaging design innovations, and then segue into details about our next event. Please make sure you get your questions in. There's a panel with a Q&A section for you to ask any questions. Delighted to hear from you if you've got anything at all you want to get answered. And of course, you'll get a link to this webinar recording post-event tomorrow as you've registered. And all our webinars are available at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ThePackHub. So ThePackHub, we're a leading packaging innovation consultancy, four main areas of service: technical support and project management, events, face-to-face and webinars. We publish reports. So our latest one is on global packaging trends, but we've also done reports on the refillable and reusable packaging market, sustainable packaging innovations, supplier guides, and the like. And our sort of core service really is our Innovation Zone packaging database. This is a global resource, searchable and very easy to use. Nearly 4,800 packaging initiatives listed, 20 new innovations every week. Not just in market on the supermarket shelf examples, but concepts as well, and a really good way of getting a global view of what's going on. We track packaging translated in 15 different languages to get a real international view of what's going on. These are some of the Innovation Zone members, and welcome to Church and Dwight and Monty's Bakehouse, who have recently joined us. So I mentioned our global packaging trends report that's available now, but what that allows me to do is to very briefly talk to you about the 9 packaging trends that form the basis of all our thinking, really. So I won't go into too much detail here, but just to give you a bit of framework in terms of what it's all about. So the first trend is naturally done, which is about the vast array of compostable, biodegradable, and bio-based examples, both in development and coming to market. So that's a big area. Everyday engagement, that's about packaging that has been designed to engage and interact with end users, and the ability to operate an ongoing dialogue with consumers and shoppers is an important brand building tool. So we've seen lots of smart and intelligent technology as a tool for that. The online market, obviously e-commerce has grown significantly for good reasons over the last 12 to 14 months or so. And we're tracking a lot of new initiatives in that area. Making life easy, so that's about packs that have added functionality to give brands and retailers a point of difference to encourage shoppers and consumers to buy their products. But so things like easy open and resealability and things like that. So we're still tracking lots of examples in that area. And materially changed, and that's about switching from one material to another. Lots of moving, as we all know, from out of plastic into often fiber and paper-based alternatives. So we're tracking a lot of that in the market. Protect and preserve, that's really about sort of trying to prevent the vast amount of waste that the humankind generates. Some widely reported statements about up to 50% of all food produced globally is never eaten, and packaging plays a big role in reducing that number. Recycling, it goes without saying that recycling continues to be a growing initiative, both in terms of improving recyclability and also increasing recycled content in view of many of the changes in the legislative landscape that encourages up to 30% recycled content or more than 30% recycled content in terms of things like packaging taxes. Just two more. Getting noticed. This is about, as clear as it says in the title, about getting shoppers and consumers' attention, both on the supermarket shelf, but also even in kitchen cupboards when you're competing with other products. So that continues to be a driver. And last but not least is refill and reusable packaging. We are tracking a lot of initiatives in this area, and it does seem to be starting to get a bit of a groundswell of new and larger initiatives coming to market. So I think that is one to watch, definitely one to watch in the coming months and years. So without further ado, we're going to look at some design trend innovations for you this time. So all the trend areas I've just discussed have an influence on packaging design. Clearly, sustainability is the biggest influence without a shadow of a doubt. Lots of plastic reduction initiatives that are influencing design, material minimalization, so moving to monomaterials and increasing recyclability. Shelf standout is still important, so design that shouts off the shelf continues to be important, and of course functionality continues to be a driver for change. So there's lots of factors going on in the market to encourage design change, really. So what we've done is just focused of the nearly 5,000 innovations that we've got on our database. We've just sort of focusing on some of those designs that are maybe a little different, a little differentiated, and might be shaping the direction for future change in the coming months, years. As always, we always kind of say this because people say, "Oh, why are you promoting this or saying about that?" Well, we're not. We're just reflecting what's going on in the market. You may not necessarily agree that some of these innovations are the best thing to do from a number of factors, but what we're doing really is just telling you what's out there, you know, in terms of all the packaging changes, because when you know what's out there, that can help you make decisions on what you should do in the market. So first up, this actually came to our attention in the last 24 hours. So we found this, written about it, it's on our database, and talking about it on a webinar all within since yesterday. So Unilever has revealed that they have partnered with New York-based global marketing communications agency Wunderman Thompson and also design studio Sour to create a new deodorant pack called Degree Inclusive. The collaboration has unveiled the world's, what they're claiming to be the world's first adaptive deodorant for people with disabilities affecting their vision and or arms. The deodorant was designed by Sour, who contributed as disability consultants on the project to suggest ideas and test prototypes. In terms of easier use for people with disabilities affecting their arms, the pack has a hook for single hand use, as well as a magnetic cap for easier opening. Additionally, for those with visual impairment, it has a braille label with instructions for use. The pack also has a large roll-on surface to reach more skin area, and also importantly, they thought about end of life and recyclability, sustainability. The boxes are refillable as well, so they've tried to think of cover all bases there. I just think it's a really interesting innovation that still at kind of concept stage, but how does that direct future design sort of input? There are unfortunately millions of people with disabilities around the world where the packaging doesn't necessarily stack up in terms of usability and functionality. In fact, you don't need to be disabled struggle with a lot of packaging, to be perfectly honest with you. So this is a really good initiative in my view from Unilever to look at an inclusive design for their degree brand. Another one of a similar note, and we published this on LinkedIn a few months ago and created a huge amount of interest. So this is McDonald's India West and South, who launched a new packaging format that has been created to make their products more inclusive. The new burger packaging design coincided with International Day of Persons and Disabilities, so that's IDPWD. The aim was to make the McDonald's experience enjoyable for all, and has been created over months of development. Current packaging typically requires customers to use both their hands to enjoy their food, which makes it difficult for those with upper limb disabilities. The new Eat Qual, so that's EATQUAL pack, addresses the challenge to ensure that everyone can bite into their favourite burgers easily. The new packaging will be available across all McDonald's restaurants in West and South India. The idea of the packaging came from communications agency DDB Mudra. I just think it's a really interesting, if this sets the standard for accessible packaging in the future, this needs to obviously move way beyond 2 regions in the Indian area. So it'd be interesting to see how learnings from this initiative have actually translated into potential further action. Now, we do report on egg packaging on a semi-regular basis in the Innovation Zone, and it tends to be about sort of fibre boxes and sort of functional initiatives. But what we've got here is a new way of presenting a premium egg product. So consider Pastures, and they specialise in humanely raised organic free-range eggs. Commissioned Paul Fisher in New York for a new premium structural look. The brief was to establish a more emotive connection with consumers, and the result is this vintage look and style, which has been described as less of an egg carton and more of a gift box. The geometric egg pattern creates a continuous pattern when stacked on shelf, giving a wallpaper-like effect. So that shelf standout consideration is being seen to. The carton features gold blocking for the new Consider Pastures monogram. So has been unthinkable in the egg category to have something as premium on the packaging. So this really is breaking some of the design rules. The other predominant colours are a warm palette of blue and white. So they're really trying to reinforce the premium nature of Consider Pastures with a pack that challenges the norms of traditional conventional egg packaging. That's available in estates at selected Whole Food stores. Now, we've tracked many new reusable pack formats in the sort of water on the go sector, and I thought we'd just pick this one out, not just for its sustainability attributes, but just as a nice piece of design. You know, one of the challenges of taking a bottle on the go is how large it is. And I found that to my cost a couple of days ago when I went for a walk and realised that I didn't have a bottle with me, because maybe one of the reasons for that is it's too large to carry. So these squeezable packs are smaller to carry, make life a bit easier. So what we've got here is a company called Stojo, and they've introduced a foldable reusable cup designed for on-the-go use. The cup is made of approved silicons and other recyclable materials. It contains no BPAs, and it's claimed to save 7 kilograms of solid waste, just over 10 kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions, and 281 gallons of water per cup per year. I would suggest that would be sort of a lot of usage for one consumer in a period of a year. So yeah, so that's one example, but a really nice pack design there to see. Another nice pack design, and we always like sort of spotting pack creations that sort of willfully steal from other categories to good effect. So this is Japanese architect and designer Oki Sato, who is a member of the Nendo studio, who has designed a recyclable paper-based alternative to single-use plastic soap dispensers. It's called Carton and Pump, and the pack is based on a standard gable top milk carton, which is then inverted and placed in a reusable base and top. The top is an integral dispenser pump with a sharp end that pierces the carton. And due to the V shape of the gable, the contents naturally accumulates in the V. So it has some added functionality in terms of convenience as well. So the top and bottom ensures that even pressure is distributed across the carton when in use, making collapse of the carton less likely. So the replacement cartons will come in 2 sizes for either liquid or foam soap. So that's a concept at this stage, and it may never become realised, but thought we'd include that as quite a cheeky stealing from another category in a good way. So Ecanva is a Spanish fruit and vegetable company based in Spain, obviously, because I just said Spanish. They've launched a new 4-pack of mini cucumbers, ideally suited for on-the-go snacking. So we've picked this up because we like spotting innovations that try and grow the market. So, you know, fruit and veg is normally sold for consumption at home, but what they try to do here is come up with a design that doesn't use any plastic, so there's no plastic window, that encourages consumers to eat on the go. So I just think that's a clever design, a nice surface area for branding on the front. So the Minigo is part of the Easy Q range of cucumbers, sold mainly in Europe, but they're looking to supply the American market as well. So I just thought that was a nice initiative there. And last innovation before we hear from James and John, this is a pack shape change. So Edinburgh-based Coco Chocotellira is a manufacturer of luxury chocolate products. The business is looking at ways to differentiate a new range of chocolate drops. The brand assessed pack shapes as a way to stand out in the market and went with a hexagonal tube supplied by Bell Packaging in Luton, UK. The tubes are digitally printed with special artwork commissioned by a UK artist called Lizzie Hillier. The distinctive shape obviously increases on-shelf differentiation compared to conventional round tubes or rectangular cartons, and the design has been further developed recently with the tubes being delivered flat and caps separately, which are then secured with a crimp sleeve to reduce environmental impact to ensure packaging protection. So that's at the end of part 1. I'm now going to stop sharing my screen and hopefully James will be able to share his. Hi James, you just need to unmic, unmute, and I will mute, and over to you. Look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Paul. Excellent information. I've got to get myself one of those Stojo foldable cups. Great to meet you all. Thank you for logging in for today's webinar. Very quick introduction. James Cutting. I've been in the industry for 32 years. I started as an apprentice at a wonderful company called Highlands of Hull. And yes, I did get sent for a long stand and a hard clip. And also I got sent for a tin of tartan ink. I think that's just a rite of passage from anybody in the pre-media industry. I've been very fortunate to be European MD of Sunoco Trident. I then became UK MD and head of digital for Miller Graphics. And then I became MD and senior vice president for SGS Co. I'd also like to introduce a colleague of mine for over 30 years, John Stevens. John is the brains of the duo, so any difficult questions I will swiftly delegate to John.
Thanks, James.
Hello, John.
Hey, John Stevens. Worked with James pretty much all of that time that he's just described, but came over to the US with James in 2005, and I stayed here. And I live in Texas, so I head up the US effort for T=0, working with James closely again today.
Okay, and T equals 0, what does it stand for? What does it mean? It actually is the formula for the Big Bang, and it means the time is now. And as I go through these slides, I think it'll come across that we truly believe that now is the time to look at things from a slightly different angle and to do things in a radically different way. So if I move on, if it would allow me to move on. That's it. Okay. So just to start off with some pretty obvious statements.
Sorry, James, you've lost the presentation. I think it's...
Really?
Yeah.
I'll try and share again. Hold on.
There we go.
This worked fine.
It always does work.
It always does. This worked fine yesterday. Okay, so can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, from our point of view, the world is changing at a phenomenal rate, quicker than it's ever changed before. I think the pandemic, this awful pandemic that we're going through, has only sped that up. And I think the world's changing for two key reasons. One, technology, and secondly, the changing of ideas. The way that we think about identity, the way we think about globalization, gender, justice, sustainability, the environment. There's a lot of things going on, and the way that we think about everything is under a great deal of flux. That leads to a great deal of creativity, entrepreneurship, and from our point of view, as I said, it's a perfect time now to look at things differently. We also look at branding and brand management. I think omni-channel keeps on growing. More and more channels keep being added. I think brands are having to navigate an increasingly polarized social and economic and political environment. I think they're under the pressure to remain consistent, because we know consistency helps drive brand success, but yet also be able to adapt to regional circumstances and different changes. The companies that own those brands have to be agile, yet be agile with a great deal of control, and these are immensely difficult things to achieve. As we all know, consumers are evolving too. It's unbelievable, I think, to think back 15 years. 15 years ago, Facebook was still competing with MySpace for traffic. Amazon was literally just selling books. The iPhone had just been released, and we all thought it'd been beamed back from the future with the amazing touchscreen and everything else it had. And 15 years ago, we all shopped bricks and mortar. We all fully believed in the first moment of truth and how that impacted the way consumers related with their packaging. And now everything's changed dramatically. New retail is born. People say that boring retail is dead. We're fully engrossed in the zero moment of truth. And consumers demand more and more information about their products. They demand to know exactly where things have come from, sustainability elements to it. There's a huge gap, I think, in what digital innovation can offer and what consumers demand. CMOs, I think, are investing 25% more spend in digital marketing to try and keep up with this hugely changing environment. So we know that technology is developing at breakneck pace. 90% of the world's data, I think, has been created in the last 2 years. I mean, I find that a phenomenal fact to get my head around. 5 billion people now have mobile devices. AI will generate 2.3 million jobs in 2021, and 43 million people are daily interacting through virtual reality in 2021. I read an article recently about brand owners buying retail space in a virtual land called Decentraland, which is fascinating. Their view is that we'll all have avatars and we'll all shop virtually. So the world is changing phenomenally and has done in the last 15 years. So in that time, in 15 years, what's happened to the design, artwork and reprographic process? Well, being a leader involved in this industry for the last 20 years, I would say rather embarrassingly, not very much. If you go back 15 years, the average time it took to go from conceptual design through to print-ready data was 90 days. There was some research done 2 years ago, and guess what? The amount of time it took to go from conceptual work to print-ready data was 90 days. So all this amazing convergence of technology, all this amazing changing environment, and yet the process that we live and breathe is still taking the same amount of time. Why is that? Fundamentally, and I'm sure there's a lot of you in the audience that are involved with management of brands, that process of taking a design concept through to print, well, it's just too lengthy. I've just described it. 90 days is way too long. It's lengthy because there's so many touch points, there's so many handoffs of information, it becomes very, very complicated. That leads to inaccuracy, and that leads to massive amounts of expense. This should not be tolerated anymore. We have to look at this differently. I think Henry Ford said if he'd have asked people what they wanted before the car, they would have said faster horses. I think we're in the same sort of situation within the pre-media industry. So here's a quick presentation to say how this actually works now for a brand owner. So you tend to have some person, a hard-working, dedicated member of the brand team whose job it is to collate all this massive amounts of data. So marketing text, legal text, nutritional information, usage instructions, graphics, design. They've got to get it all together. They've got to compile that into some sort of clear brief. They then communicate that brief, probably through email and PowerPoints and spreadsheets, to a studio administrator. That studio administrator interprets that instruction, they forward it on to an artist somewhere in the world. That artist picks up the brief and they interpret the brief, and they then carry out the work. They then forward it to a QC person, again, probably somewhere else in the world. That QC person opens the work, interprets the brief, and checks the brief. They then send that back to the administrator, and the administrator sends it all the way back to the planner. Within that process, you've probably lost 7 to 10 days. You've used a myriad of different communication devices. It's difficult to trace. It's difficult to find out where things are. Often people have Excel trackers to try and keep pace of everything, and you just lose a massive amounts of time. And often what happens is when it actually gets back to the client, the brand owner, it's wrong. How frustrated, it's wrong. And fundamentally, for people in the brand, it's like herding cats. It is as difficult as that. There's got to be a simpler, more effective way to do this. There was some quantitative research done, again, I think it was last year, maybe 18 months ago, and they looked at 128 brands over a period of 6 months. And they found that unbelievably, copy, simple text, was still causing 58% of the delays. 19% related to the supply chain, all of those human handoffs, all of that potential for interpretation. And then 16% related to graphics, the incorrect use of graphics, out-of-date graphics. 3 simple things that have to be fixed if we're going to deliver a more effective way to make packaging more relevant and to make the process so much more streamlined. So our mission as T=0, we want to change the way people think about the artwork process fundamentally from the core. We want to give back power to the knowledge holders, to the stakeholders. We want to enable the people that understand those brands to create real-time artwork, to modify thousands of artworks in minutes. Fundamentally, for the amount of time it takes you to write an email and brief your supply chain, you want to be able to have made those changes and have released that data. Fundamentally, we want to make packaging a marketing vehicle again. How can it be a true and effective marketing vehicle when it takes 90 days to get some graphics right? Fundamentally, we've talked about consumers want things that are relevant. Immediacy is really important. And we also want to reduce the lifetime cost of ownership of a brand. There's a lot of churn, a lot of change, removal of new flashes, new improved flashes. All these things cost money. We need to find out a way of empowering the brands to be able to make those sorts of changes quickly, efficiently, and cost effectively. So that's our rather ambitious and exciting mission. Okay, so the solution, how do we do it? How do we tackle all of that? Well, it's pretty easy. From our perspective, there's 4 simple steps. Step 1, define and simplify the entire process. Understand your process from beginning to end. Critique it. Find out where all the gaps are. Find out where all the touch points are. Look to make it as simple as possible. Number 2, manage all of your brand content, manage all your brand elements. A lot of people now do have digital asset stores. They might have content management systems, but they're disassociated from the graphic process. So that means they become out of date and therefore defunct. Number 3, create an intelligent, sophisticated level of automation. And I don't mean GS1 tag Illustrator. So you might have to have a tagged template for each individual size that then links to 2 or 3 different variants. That's not the way to do it. What you need is a sophisticated way of mapping the entire brand across every size, across every need for every part of the omni-channel process. That's exceptionally exciting, and that's what we're doing. And then number 4, give the power back to the brand owner. Enable the brand owner to interact with their graphics directly through a browser. Simple, easy to train, intuitive. That's what we need to do. So those 4 simple steps, if you can tackle those 4 simple steps, you can create hundreds of artworks in minutes, and you can potentially modify thousands of artworks in seconds. So here's our ever-expanding universe of solutions. So Editor Plus is a new, exciting way to produce final artwork. It's done through the browser. You interact with it through the browser. It has a massive amounts of control and also agility and flexibility. That system is supported by a very sophisticated text management tool, enabling you to coordinate language changes, all sorts of ingredients, nutritions, build a Bible almost of all of your copy. That's supported by an image library, but not a standard DAM, an image library that links directly to the sophisticated, intelligent Editor Plus brand map. Those 3 things are then supported by an amazing rules engine. This rules engine means that you can track country legislation, regulatory rules, brand rules, print rules, whatever you need to build to make sure that what you create inside the editor is actually 100% correct. Workflow Plus, that enables you to add discipline, to add workflows to support the entire process. And that drives Insights Plus, which is real-time reporting. Forget having to wait for a supplier to send you an Excel spreadsheet explaining where all of your 100 artworks are. Go onto our system, manage it yourself, and then get the reports that you need. And then finally, and I think most exciting, is how do you leverage the Microsoft Azure platform and everything it has built within it to help drive machine learning to make this system an ever-learning, self-sufficient, self-predictive type of system. And that's what we're doing. Okay, so all of those tools and software solutions, they fit simply and support those 4 key steps. And that's really as simple as it is. So to demonstrate that, here's a little movie that gives you an insight in the software actually working. Amazing. So what we're showing you there is that within seconds, you can build multiple variants across multiple sizes, all linked to the same core content, which is really powerful. And once you have those links in place, you can change that design as often as you like and create 100% accurate data.
And I think the key as well is it's all in a browser. So the file doesn't actually exist on a desktop somewhere. It's in the Microsoft Azure cloud space. And so all the font management, image management, file management, and versioning is taken care of for you by the software, and it works anywhere in the world in a modern browser without any plugins.
Thanks, John. Absolutely. We've been really impressed by the feedback that we're getting from global brands. People are saying that this is what they've been looking for, that we're able to offer them something that truly transforms their process, gives them the ability to take marketing and take packaging and make it a true marketing vehicle. People are saying this is what they've been looking for a long time. It's revolutionary in its approach. It's a different way of thinking about the artwork and repro process. And fundamentally, I think a lot of people have been wanting this. People are fed up with that 90-day process, with all of that delay, all of that expense. They're looking for something that gives them that agility to make their brands relevant, and not just digitally, but also with the physical packaging. And I think that's the key point. It's real-time artwork. So you can produce an artwork in the time it takes you to brief your supply chain, and you can control it from within inside your own company. Fundamentally, what this is about is doing it better, doing it quicker, and fundamentally saving you costs. So 0 issues, 0 delays, and 0 stress. And we're hugely excited, and we'd love to speak to you all about it in more detail and present in a lot more detail at a future opportunity. That's the presentation.
So Last Object was set up in 2018 by a Danish designer who was frustrated by the amount of single-use products on the market. This is Last Tissue, which comprises a silicone case that contains 6 reusable tissues made from 100% organic cotton. It's claimed that tissues can be washed 520 times, quite specifically, whilst the silicone case is dishwasher proof, so that can be cleaned and disinfected as required. Once the last tissue, which is marked, is revealed, the consumer knows that it's time for them to be washed, and it's estimated that using just 1 reusable tissue can save 2 litres of water when compared to single-use tissues. So that's quite an interesting initiative. Very inconvenient, if truth be told, but certainly something that will appeal to a small but eager subsector of the consumer base. Next up is sort of really the shift to more recyclable and easier to open packaging across the board. So this is gaming packaging has had a reputation for over packaging, using lots of different materials, not all of them recyclable, to protect the contents and also to present the best unboxing experience. But times have changed, and what might have been acceptable 3 or 4, 5 years ago is no longer so. So Sony have improved their packaging for their PlayStation 5 console, making it now fully recyclable. And the step is in line with Sony's Road to Zero initiative. And the materials used for the packaging of the PS5 console and accessories are designed to be fully recyclable. And the PS5 packaging per unit is nearly 99% plastic free overall by weight. So just a little bit of plastic in there. Absolute Vodka. I think that most of us have enjoyed the designs over the years from the iconic brand, and their latest incarnation is dubbed Absolute Movement and aims to inspire people to connect and celebrate inclusivity. Put together by glass packaging company Arda Group, who have helped bring to market a frosted blue glass bottle which features an upward spiral design of 16 swirls to symbolize perpetual change. So a really nice looking design, very simple in its construction, but one that certainly gets people's attention. In an effort to reduce plastic waste, P&G, Secret and Old Spice brands have launched a new packaging format using refillable cases, sort of breaking some of the design norms of the deodorant market. They had a limited edition pilot, both brands expanding much further out with an aluminium-free deodorant formula, which includes a very nice push-pop design. Consumers can crush the empty paperboard and place the packaging into the recycling bin, and it's available throughout the United States. Beauty and wellness brand Acever is launching a new sustainable packaging model. The reusable system is a step forward from recycling of jars and bottles through the introduction of rentable packaging. The process aims to gamify the consumer experience and encourage compliance via an engaging points system that rewards consumers who ship their empty packaging back. Points are also rewarded for other environmentally focused deeds by the consumer. So that's an interesting use of language there to talk about rentable packaging, which effectively is taking packaging back and then getting it again. And there's a $2 rental fee for each item. Just 2 or 3 more now. This is a new range of snacking apples have been launched in Italy. The design very much has children in mind. The corrugated board packs are brightly coloured and could be transformed into one of 5 different vehicles, including a bus, train or aeroplane, once the pack is empty. So the concept came about as a way to encourage children to consume more fruit. And it's just a good way of using packaging, a bit of secondary use, as I say, encouraging consumers, young shoppers to consume more fruit and veg. So we've tracked quite a few of these sort of initiatives where the packaging becomes effectively a toy of some description. So, and that's another good example. Last but not least, we put this in, we're never quite sure if this was a serious attempt at packaging or a little bit of a PR stunt, but I think it's fair to say that Japanese culture is acknowledged by some as a bit of a stereotype for being quite reserved and understated. And a brand is honing in on this societal characteristic with a semi-serious sales opportunity that sees the creation of a series of new packs to help customers who are apparently embarrassed to buy toilet paper. The Japanese drugstore chain Matsukayo has apparently increased product sales due to the creation of these fun and consumer-friendly packs. This light-hearted execution is motivated by the reality that some Japanese shoppers apparently are uncomfortable leaving the supermarket visibly holding a bunch of toilet paper. The target audience was in their minds of the packaging developers who decided to innovate the packaging of its product in order to sell more. They switched the traditional transparent packaging showing rolls of toilet paper inside the pack to cover the products with fun and engaging images, which obviously in this case is a music player, but also other things like a sleeping baby, a shopping bag, and even a man's 6-pack apparently. It does raise the question, how do consumers buy this essential and necessary item before this change? And maybe this is just a light-hearted PR exercise, but I thought we would include that at the end, just to show you the wide breadth of things coming to our attention. So there are the innovations. If I can ask Barry to put his mic on and ask some questions, what the questions are, please, Barry.
Hi, yeah, we have a few questions. The first one is anybody actually using this new artwork system, and what sort of improvements are you seeing in a real-time application?
Yes, we've got a number of global clients utilising the system. We've got a couple of global clients going through major trials as well. And what's exciting is that a number of those clients are predicting 80 to 90% improvement in their speed to market, improvements of the overall process, and some of them between 20 and 40% reduction in cost.
Where are the cost reductions coming from? Where do they feel that they're saving the money?
It's been reducing the amount of errors, improving that overall speed to market, generally just reducing the amount of resources that are absorbed by the process.
And quite often it's the people who are briefing the text changes through to the studio are actually making the text changes themselves. So it's way more efficient. So you, rather than say spending an hour to make a few text changes, they can do it themselves in minutes. Yeah,
and you're removing the sort of miscommunication and misunderstanding in that sort of transfer of knowledge between one party and another as well, I suspect.
Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly. And one thing that doesn't come over in the video, but if you then refine the design, let's say it's 2022, you want to update your imagery or change some colors, you don't have to start again and remake a brand new artwork file. You just go and refine what's already there, and all the content and all the approvals that happened the first time continue to be valid. So you really save time and money when you update your artworks.
One question, sort of being historically involved in this and seeing reluctance of people to let go of control and wanting checks and balances at every stage to remove the errors and the sources of errors. Are you seeing a change in approach from some of these brand owners that they are more willing to let go some of that control to speed up the process?
Well, it's actually the opposite way on. I think they get more control because they're doing it themselves, but they also then get the backup of everything being traceable and auditable because it's managed by the workflow tool. So they can log on and make changes directly themselves, but also then have all of that auditable information.
I think as well, there's been some interesting things shared around data that's in their enterprise systems that ends up online. So there are fields now inside their PLM that ends up on Amazon, and there's no approval between it. And because of that, there's a new discipline starting to form because of the online presence that is that's going down to packaging. So we're seeing a greater desire to have good inputs in the enterprise systems that feed the artwork.
And are you finding this is linked into printers? Are printers now going to be the limiting factor and slow it down, or are they sort of ready to take this much quicker stream of information and get moving on it?
Yeah, I think a lot of printers are obviously looking into digital print as well. I think digital print becomes very, very exciting when you link that technology to our technology. But I think the key thing is that the design process tends to take a long time. Getting the data from that to the printer immensely quickly, removing those 90 days means the printer can then have a little bit more time to schedule on their presses and get the printing absolutely correct.
Are you sure that the marketeers just don't want to take all of that extra time themselves? Because that's normally my experience.
Well, again, the other great thing is that you can look at artwork in a different way, whereas nowadays you're looking at KPIs and right the first time, being able to interact directly with the graphics through the browser. You can make as many changes you like, as often as you like. I mean, it just changes your whole mindset around the way that you can deal with graphics.
Yeah. Okay, I think there's a couple of questions. Well, one question that needs to be more directed at Paul. Someone's asked, what's the connection between the PackHub, the Innovation Zone, and T = 0? So would you like to answer that one, Paul?
I can. So the PackHub and the Innovation Zone are the same thing. So the Innovation Zone is a product of the PackHub. Whoever's asking that question, I'm more than happy to send you more information on our range of services. And T = 0 is one of our partners. We have a supplier partner for our presentations each time, and T = 0 is the one for this time. So hopefully that clarifies that for you.
Yeah, and they've also asked for connections and who's based in the United States, etc. So that's something we can share with them at the end of the presentation, isn't it? Or you can share with them at a later date.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Barry. So yeah, we will share the contact details for John and James for tomorrow. We'll also have the recording available for the webinar recording from tomorrow. Just to give you information, so next up, our next webinar is next Thursday, the 20th of May, again at 3 p.m. British summertime, where we'll be looking at recyclable packaging innovations. I would just like to thank you all for your attention and attendance. We hope to see you on our next event, and stay safe, and thank you again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.